All right, let's jump into this deep dive. We're cracking open Sun Tzu's The Art of War today.
Ooh, yeah.
Got the unabridged audiobook all queued up, ready to soak in some serious strategic wisdom.
Awesome.
I'm thinking this is going to be good.
It's not just for, history buffs either.
Right.
Sun Tzu's principles are shockingly relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, for practically any challenge you can think of.
Oh.
Like a tough negotiation you're facing, a big career decision, even just figuring out how to nail a personal goal.
It's true.
It's all in there.
I love it. So our mission today is to kind of distill all that timeless wisdom, right?
Right.
And figure out how we can actually use it, to win our own battles, whatever those might be.
Absolutely.
Sun Tzu starts off by laying out these 5 crucial elements for success.
Okay.
He calls them the 5 constant factors. And I got to admit, when I first saw moral law on that list, I thought, hold on, is this going to be like a philosophy lecture? But then I kept reading it.
It's actually brilliant.
It is.
When you think about it.
Yeah.
Sun is saying that, before you even get into tactics, you need a solid foundation, right?
Okay.
A shared sense of purpose, a leader who inspires total trust. That's what fuels any victory.
I'm starting to see it, yeah.
It is.
It's like building a house, You don't start with the paint job.
Exactly.
You got to have that solid foundation first.
You got it.
And he connects this moral law idea directly to the leader, right?
He does.
The commander.
And he lays out some pretty high standards.
Oh, yeah.
Wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, strictness.
Wow.
He's serious.
No messing around.
What's fascinating is how these qualities still resonate, even with modern leadership theories.
Totally.
Authenticity, emotional intelligence, being able to inspire. It's all right there in Sun Tzu.
So we're not just talking about barking orders and demanding obedience.
Nope.
This is about leading in a way that earns you respect and gets people genuinely on board.
That's cool.
Okay, I like it. So we've got moral law as our foundation. Then there's heaven and earth, right?
Right.
Which I guess are about understanding the whole landscape you're operating in.
Exactly.
So heaven isn't about actual heaven.
No.
More like the external stuff you just can't control.
Yeah, all right. It is. It's all about timing. Trends, the weather of your situation.
I see.
Think about how stock market swings can impact a business.
Right.
Or even just your own energy levels, going into a negotiation.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Makes a difference.
So you got to be aware of these external forces and roll with them.
Absolutely.
Adapt. Okay, got it. And what about Earth then? Is that about literally knowing the terrain?
Well, in a military sense, yeah.
Right.
But metaphorically speaking, it's about sizing up the situation, whatever it is.
Okay.
Say you're going into a job interview. The company culture, that's your terrain.
Interesting.
Their needs, those are the landmarks. And your skills, those are your tools for navigating it all.
That's a cool way to think about it.
It is.
I like that.
It is.
Okay, so we've got moral law sets the tone.
Right.
Heaven and earth define the battlefield.
Yeah.
Commander leads the charge. That leaves us with method and discipline.
The nuts and bolts.
Okay.
The execution, getting things done.
Right.
Sun Tzu, he's a big believer in organization, clear communication, and using your resources wisely.
Right.
You gotta have systems, whether you're running an army or a marketing campaign.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So these 5 constant factors kind of work together.
They do.
Like a recipe for success.
They do, yeah.
Now, I'm curious how he tackles that element of surprise.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's where the art of war gets really juicy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Sun Tzu's not afraid to make bold statements.
Right.
He says, all warfare is based on deception.
Straight up.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And he means that in the broadest sense, I'm guessing.
He does.
Not just like hiding tanks in the bushes,
No.
but being strategically surprising in any conflict,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Sure.
Think about a business negotiation.
Yeah.
If you can anticipate your opponent's moves and then do something totally unexpected,
Right.
you gain a massive advantage.
Right.
Throws them completely off balance.
It's like that magician's misdirection thing.
Yes.
You think you're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat and suddenly, bam, a dove's flying across the room.
He gives some really intriguing examples in The Art of War
Oh, yeah.
to illustrate this, like appearing weak when you're actually strong to lull your opponent into a false sense of security or, faking a retreat
Okay.
to draw the enemy into a trap.
It's like playing mind games, almost.
It is a bit, yeah.
But isn't there a risk of being too deceptive? Like, where's the line?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that we should definitely dig into more.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that even though Sun Tzu's all about deception,
he also emphasizes integrity and being trustworthy, especially for leaders.
Okay.
So it's a tricky balance.
So be cunning, but don't be a jerk.
Exactly.
Use your smarts to outsmart, not just to deceive for the sake of deceiving.
Right.
Gotcha.
I think that's where moral law comes back in, you know?
Yeah.
It keeps your actions grounded, even when you're using, like, unconventional tactics.
I like it. All right, so Sun Tzu's all about those calculated surprises.
He is.
But he also seems to be saying, don't get bogged down in these drawn-out conflicts, right?
Yeah, he compares a long campaign to a weapon that gets dull with overuse. And, like, the ardor, the fighting spirit, it just dampens over time.
Right.
He's basically saying the longer a fight drags on, the more everybody loses their edge.
We've all been there, right? With a project or a task that just drags on and on.
I know.
And you just lose all that initial energy and enthusiasm.
Completely fizzles out.
It's like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach. And that's where his idea of foraging on the enemy comes in.
Foraging? Now I'm really curious. What's he talking about?
Okay, so, like, in a military sense, it's about using your opponent's resources to keep your army going.
Oh. Huh?
But think about it in, like, a business setting today.
Yeah.
It could be about using your competitor's weaknesses to your advantage.
I do.
Or finding ways to gain resources without using up your own.
So it's not just about winning, it's about winning smart.
Oh,
making every move count.
Yeah.
I can definitely see how that applies to, well, pretty much anything.
Oh, yeah.
And that efficiency ties into his thing about adapting, right?
Totally.
Like water.
He compares a skilled strategist to water.
Right.
Always adjusting to the ground it flows over.
Which is super important nowadays, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Things change so fast.
Constantly.
If you can't adapt, you're toast.
You are? Yeah.
And that brings us to one of Sun Tzu's most powerful ideas.
Yeah.
The one I think is most important for everyone listening right now.
What's that?
Knowledge.
Yeah.
That's the key.
It is.
He's got that famous line, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.
Classic.
Right.
Classic.
And that applies to way more than just warfare, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Like a job interview, a business pitch.
For sure.
Even a disagreement with someone.
Yeah.
Understanding your own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And the motivations of the people you're dealing with.
It's key.
That's huge.
It is.
It's about doing your homework.
Yeah.
Being prepared and really understanding yourself and the situation you're walking into.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm ready to get into how we actually do that.
Let's do it.
How do we gain that knowledge Sun Tzu's talking about?
All right, let's dive deeper.
All right.
Let's unpack how he suggests analyzing the terrain, assessing our opponents, and maybe even engaging in a little espionage.
Ooh, espionage.
Aha!
I like it.
All right.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, so we've got those 5 constant factors down.
Yeah.
Like the foundation.
Foundation.
Now I want to get into the actual strategies.
Right. The how-to.
Where do we go from here with Sun Tzu?
Well, he's big on this idea that winning isn't just about brute force.
Okay.
It's about making smart moves, calculated moves.
Right.
And that all starts with really solid planning.
So more than just let's attack on Tuesday.
Right.
Way more.
Okay.
He's talking about this deep strategic thinking that goes beyond just the obvious stuff.
Yeah.
He actually says victorious armies, they nail the planning before the battle even starts. While losing armies, they barely plan at all.
Interesting.
It's about thinking ahead, anticipating those challenges,
Okay.
having backup plans ready to go.
So it's not just reacting to problems as they pop up.
No.
It's about shaping how things unfold.
Exactly.
I like that.
And he breaks this pre-battle planning down into 5 key parts.
Okay, hit me. Measurement, estimating quantity, calculation, then balancing chances, and finally, victory.
Wow, that's a whole process.
It is.
It's like a step-by-step.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break it down. Let's say we're applying this to, like, launching a new business.
Example.
What would measurement look like in that scenario?
Okay, so measurement is all about gathering information, getting a feel for the landscape.
Okay.
So for a business, that'd be market research, checking out your competition, figuring out who your target audience is, all that.
So like scouting the terrain before you send in the troops.
Exactly.
And then estimation of quantity.
That's where you compare what you've got,
Everything.
your resources, your capabilities, to your competitors or whatever challenge you're facing.
Gotcha.
How much money do you have?
Right.
How big's your team? What are you good at? What are you not so good at compared to everyone else out there?
Okay. Makes sense. And then calculation. I'm guessing that's where the number crunching comes in.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Figuring out how to make the most of what you've got.
Right.
That's where you develop your strategy, set your goals, your KPIs,
yeah.
and make those big decisions about where your resources are going to go.
Got it.
Yeah.
And balancing chances, that sounds like weighing the risks and rewards.
Exactly.
Right.
Looking at what could go wrong, what challenges might pop up.
Right.
Having those backup plans, those contingencies.
Yeah.
Minimizing the downsides, maximizing the upsides.
So if you've done all that really carefully,
right,
then victory, or in this case, a successful launch, that should kind of just happen naturally.
That's the idea.
Okay.
Of course, you can't predict everything.
Right.
But good planning, it definitely stacks the odds in your favor.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's cool how this stuff translates so well to today, you know?
It really does.
But let's go back to the actual battlefield for a sec. Something that always kind of fascinated me about Sun Tzu is this whole idea of managing energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yours and your opponent's.
Uh-huh.
How does that play out in the art of war?
He's super clear about it.
Okay.
He says, controlling a huge army, it's no different from controlling a small one.
Really?
It's all about communication and maneuvering.
Interesting.
So even if you're outnumbered, you can still gain the upper hand if you're moving strategically.
Okay.
Coordinating everything well.
I see.
He uses this really powerful image to explain it.
Oh, yeah.
A grindstone smashing into an egg.
Whoa, okay.
The grindstone, it's way bigger.
Right.
But it's able to focus all its force on that one weak point of the egg.
That's a good visual.
It is.
So it's about concentrating your efforts where they'll have the most impact.
Exactly.
Nice.
And speaking of weak points, Sun Tzu has a whole chapter on finding them and exploiting them.
Oh, yeah.
He loves the idea of being adaptable, unpredictable, hitting where the enemy least expects it.
Right.
Keeping them guessing.
So don't get stuck to a rigid plan.
Nope.
You got to adjust.
Always be adjusting.
Based on what your opponent's weaknesses are.
Exactly.
I can see that.
And he's also big on knowing when to back off, you know?
Okay.
Conserve your energy.
Right.
He compares a skilled general to a falcon, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to strike.
That's a cool analogy.
It is, right?
So it's like a balance between going all in and holding back.
Knowing when to push and when to wait.
Right.
He actually gets super specific about maneuvering an army, too.
Does he?
Oh, yeah. He talks about understanding the terrain.
Okay.
Knowing when to advance, when to retreat. Being able to change plans on the fly.
Gotcha.
He compares a well-maneuvered army to, like, a force of nature.
Oh, wow.
Swift as the wind, dense as a forest, fierce as fire, unyielding as a mountain.
It's interesting how he uses those images from nature.
It is, right.
To describe a strong army.
Very poetic.
But beyond the poetry, what's he actually saying about how to maneuver effectively?
He's all about speed.
Okay.
Stealth and unpredictability.
Right.
He spends a good chunk of the art of war talking about the 9 different types of terrain, too. 9.
Okay, that's pretty specific.
It is.
What are some of these terrain types, and how do they, change your strategy?
He categorizes them based on how important they are strategically, ranging from, like, dispersive ground, which is basically your home turf where you have the advantage, all the way to desperate ground. Which is, a do-or-die situation.
Okay, so it's not just knowing what the land looks like.
No.
It's understanding the, psychology and strategy of each terrain.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So, for example, on open ground, he says, don't try to block the enemy's path.
Okay.
While on hemmed-in ground, you got to get more cunning.
Interesting.
Each type needs a different approach.
So there's no one-size-fits-all solution in strategy? You got to adapt to the situation you're in.
I got it.
And that brings us to another big thing Sun Tzu talks about.
What's that?
Knowing when to fight. And maybe even more importantly, when not to fight.
He's not saying to be a pacifist or anything.
Right.
But he's definitely cautious about getting into battles unless victory is like a sure thing.
Okay.
He warns against letting emotions like anger or pride cloud your judgment.
So think things through.
Yes.
Don't let your ego make decisions for you.
Exactly.
He actually says a kingdom that's been destroyed can never be restored.
Yeah.
And the dead can never be brought back to life.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah, it makes you think.
It does.
So sometimes walking away or finding a peaceful solution, that's the smartest move you can make.
Yeah, often it is.
But even then, Sun Tzu's principles still apply, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Diplomacy, negotiation.
Yeah.
Those are just as much a part of the art of war as military tactics.
Interesting.
It's about using what you know about human nature.
Leverage strategic communication to get what you want.
So Sun Tzu would have been a great negotiator. I think so.
Yeah.
He definitely understood persuasion and knowing what makes your opponent tick.
All right, so we've covered tactics, maneuvering, terrain, knowing when to engage, when to hold back.
We have.
But there's one thing I'm still curious about.
What's that?
His use of spies.
Yes, espionage.
That's like next level stuff.
It is.
Sun Tzu considered spies essential. Right?
Totally indispensable.
Okay.
They're the ones bringing you that crucial information.
Right.
About the enemy's movements, their strengths and weaknesses.
Like having eyes and ears everywhere.
Exactly.
Giving you that edge.
He actually breaks down spies into 5 different types.
5. Right, lay it on me.
Local spies, inward spies, converted spies, doomed spies, and surviving spies.
Wow, a whole spy network.
Each with their own role to play.
So it's more than just sending secret agents behind enemy lines.
Oh, yeah, much more.
It's the whole system.
A system of gathering intel and even manipulating information.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
All right, so local spies,
Yeah.
They're recruited from the enemy's own people.
Okay.
They give you insights into the enemy's culture, their morale.
Interesting.
Inward spies, those are officials or people already within the enemy's ranks.
Whoa.
Working for you secretly.
Oh, wait.
Giving you the inside scoop on their plans and strategies.
That's wild.
Then you've got converted spies.
Those are the ones who switch sides, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Former enemy spies who are now feeding you information.
Right.
And maybe even stirring up trouble on their old side.
Wow.
Doomed spies, those are the ones you intentionally give false info to.
Oh, to mislead the enemy.
Exactly, lead them astray.
That's devious.
It is.
Okay, and surviving spies.
Those are the ones sent in to gather intel and then come back with their findings.
It's amazing and kind of scary how far Sun Tzu was willing to go.
It's a different world back then.
For sure.
But the main idea still holds true today.
What's that?
Gathering intelligence, getting the information you need.
Right.
Whether you're a CEO trying to stay ahead of the market or just someone navigating a tricky situation.
Makes sense.
Having accurate information, that's key.
So do your research, know what's going on.
And sometimes, be a little sneaky about how you get that information.
Okay, I like it.
So we've talked about espionage.
Yep.
Let's move on to something else Sun Tzu was really good at.
Okay.
Understanding the psychology of warfare.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not just about moves on a board.
No.
It's about human nature.
People.
And using that to your advantage.
It all comes down to people in the end.
Okay, tell me more about this.
Sun Tzu, he emphasizes morale, discipline, and leadership. Inspiring your troops, giving them a sense of purpose.
Right.
Maintaining their trust, that's huge.
Makes sense.
He even compares a general's relationship with his soldiers to a father and his sons.
Wow, that's a strong bond.
It is.
So leadership isn't just about giving orders.
Yeah.
It's about building those relationships.
Yeah.
Getting people to be loyal.
Trust is everything.
Inspiring them to achieve something great together.
And he's got a list of qualities that make a great leader.
Oh, yeah. What are they?
Courage, wisdom, compassion, adaptability, tough decision-making.
Right.
And being able to inspire others to keep going, even when things are tough.
It's kind of crazy how those qualities are still so relevant.
I know, right?
No matter what you're leading.
It's timeless.
Whether it's an army, a company, or even just yourself.
Absolutely.
It's all about leadership.
And along with good leadership,
yeah,
he's big on discipline and training.
Okay.
He says an army without discipline, it's useless.
So it's not enough to just have talent.
Nope.
You got to shape that talent.
Mold it.
Turn individuals into a team that functions like a well-oiled machine.
Exactly.
And of course, communication's key. Everyone's got to be on the same page.
Absolutely.
Knowing their roles, their responsibilities.
Sun Tzu says a general's orders.
Yeah.
They should be clear, concise,
right,
easy for everyone to understand.
Makes sense.
It's about getting rid of confusion, making sure everyone's working towards the same goal,
right,
and then executing those plans with precision.
It's incredible how much wisdom there is in this ancient text.
I know, right?
Like a blueprint for leadership and teamwork.
And we're just scratching the surface.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
There's more.
Let's dig into some of Sun Tzu's more, shall we say, unconventional strategies.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Starting with his thoughts on the attack by fire.
Okay, attack by fire, now we're talking.
Things are heating up.
Attack by fire, huh? This sounds pretty intense.
It is. Sun Tzu, he actually outlines 5 different ways.
5?
5 ways to use fire strategically.
Whoa, okay.
Like burning enemy camps,
right.
Supply lines, even launching like flaming projectiles.
I mean, I get it. Yeah. The methods themselves, they seem kind of old school now.
They do.
But the idea of disrupting your enemy.
Yes.
Messing with their operations, their infrastructure.
It still applies.
It totally does.
That's the key takeaway.
But fire, I mean, it's so unpredictable.
It is.
How do you even control something like that?
Sun Tzu, he's all about timing.
Okay.
Knowing the weather conditions,
right.
Choosing the right moment.
Right.
He's saying you got to be prepared for the unexpected.
Yeah.
Fire has a mind of its own, you know?
I see that.
A wise general, he says,
yeah,
knows how to control the flames and use them to their advantage.
Okay, that's a pretty powerful metaphor, I think.
It is.
It's not just about actual fire, right?
No.
It's about harnessing any powerful force.
Exactly.
Even if it seems kind of chaotic.
Which leads us nicely to another one of Sun Tzu's ideas.
Okay, what's that?
The power of invisibility.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued.
Uh-huh.
How do you make an army invisible?
He's not talking about literal invisibility, of course.
Yeah, right.
It's more about hiding your intentions,
okay,
your movements, even your strengths.
So if your opponent can't figure out what you're going to do next,
right,
they can't really stop you.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
He puts it this way. Through you, we learn to be invisible. Through you, inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands.
That's kind of chilling.
Is.
So you got to master surprise.
Yes.
Misdirection.
I'm guessing.
Like a mental chess game. Almost.
It is.
Always staying one step ahead.
You got it.
And I can see how that would be useful in, like, business.
Oh, absolutely.
Negotiations, for sure. Even just personal relationships.
On a strategy.
All right, so we've got invisibility. But Sun Tzu also talks about choosing your battles, right?
He does.
Like, don't take unnecessary risks.
Avoid them if you can.
Only fight when you've got a clear advantage.
He says, move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. Fight not unless the position is critical.
It's like, be strategic, be intentional.
Yeah.
Don't just react to everything.
Pick your battles.
I like it.
Yeah.
And that leads us to one of Sun Tzu's most famous lines.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of a weird one, too.
Which one is that?
The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting.
Ah, yes.
Wait, how do you win a war without fighting?
Right.
That seems impossible.
It does, yeah.
It's a contradiction.
But what he means is achieve your goals.
Okay.
With as little conflict as possible.
Right.
Minimize your losses. Save your strength for later.
So it's not about never fighting.
No.
It's about understanding that winning.
Yeah.
That's not just about defeating your opponent.
Right.
It's about doing it in a way that makes you stronger.
Exactly.
Okay, I think I see what he's getting at.
So it's about using everything you've got.
Yeah.
Diplomacy, negotiation, strategy, psychology, to reach your goals without resorting to, just brute force.
He gives examples in the book, right?
He does.
Like tricking your enemy into thinking you're weaker than you are.
Yeah.
Or creating distractions so they don't see your real goal.
Yeah.
He even talks about turning their allies against them.
Yeah.
Breaking their will to fight without even engaging them directly.
That's Sun Tzu for you.
That's pretty hardcore.
It is.
I mean, you got to remember the time he was writing in.
That's true.
War was brutal back then.
Absolutely.
He was trying to find ways to minimize the bloodshed.
Less loss of life.
Win with as few casualties as possible.
A more humane approach, in a way.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the military stuff.
It is, yeah.
But Sun Tzu is really about winning in a way that makes you stronger in the long run.
That's it.
And that applies to more than just war, right?
Way more.
So how do we actually use this in our lives today?
It's about being strategic, thinking things through, choosing your battles carefully. Not every disagreement has to turn into a huge fight.
Right.
Be willing to negotiate, compromise, find solutions that work for everyone.
Because sometimes the best way to win is to avoid the fight altogether.
Or even better, turn your opponent into an ally.
Yeah. Sun Tzu really makes you rethink conflict, doesn't he?
He does.
And it's not just about external conflicts either, right?
Oh.
It's also about those battles we have within ourselves.
That internal struggle?
Yeah. It's like he's teaching us how to fight our own inner demons.
He talks about self-control.
Okay.
Discipline,
Right.
Mastering your emotions.
So don't let anger or fear make decisions for you.
Exactly.
That's something we hear a lot about today, too.
Absolutely.
The psychology, self-help, all that. It's about knowing your weaknesses,
Yeah.
your biases.
Your blind spots.
If you want to make good choices,
Right.
reach your goals.
Be your own strategist.
That's a good one.
Cultivate those qualities of a wise leader, not just to win against others,
Yeah.
but to win that battle within yourself.
Powerful stuff.
It is.
It's so easy to get caught up in everything going on around us.
The chaos, the noise.
Yeah. Lose sight of what matters.
Sun Tzu reminds us to slow down,
Okay.
think strategically,
Mm-hmm.
focus on what's truly important.
It's been amazing exploring the art of war.
It has.
This ancient text.
Timeless.
So much to teach us, even now.
It's a guide to strategic thinking.
Yeah.
Leadership, self-mastery.
A book you can keep coming back to.
Absolutely.
Always finding something new.
I know I'll be thinking about Sun Tzu's wisdom for a while.
We do.
What about you? Any chapters really stick with you?
Oh, definitely.
Think about how you can apply those ideas to your own life.
And if you're interested in learning more about strategy, decision-making,
There's a ton of great resources out there.
keep exploring, keep learning.
Push those boundaries.
That's what it's all about.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of war. Until next time, keep strategizing.
And may you always achieve victory in whatever battles you face.
Well said.